5 spine-chilling Catskills mountain tales revealed, terrifying secrets too sinister to forget. Lucas took a deep breath as the gas station door swung shut behind him, a chill creeping up his spine. The sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting ominous shadows across the lot. Something about the Catskill Mountains felt different tonight. A lurking unease crawled beneath his skin, promising unknown horrors. Whispers drifted through the air, chilling him to the bone. How many more will vanish? They seemed to echo. He forced a smile at the regulars as they shuffled in, their faces illuminated only faintly by the fluorescent lights overhead. But behind those warm, neighborly grins, Lucas sensed an unsettling truth. The townsfolk exchanged nervous glances whenever their conversations strayed too close to the mountains, wrapping their fears in layers of small talk. He sensed they knew something darker buried beneath those beautiful autumn colors. As the night deepened, the howling wind carried whispers from the woods. Lucas wiped the counter, trying to shake the unsettling feeling that had settled in his gut. The soft rustle of leaves became a choir of hushed voices, pulling him toward the forbidden edge of the forest. He couldn't ignore it any longer. The tales of spirits guarding secrets, terrifying, malevolent truths were alive in the night air. What if something was out there? He glanced around, heart racing as he thought about the children. Every day, cheerful laughter echoed through the halls at home, but lately, that laughter had dimmed. According to the whispers, several children had vanished in just a few weeks, leaving behind only chilling silence and fear. How had the sheriff brushed it off? Just a part of life in the woods, he shrugged, as if their lives were mere casualties of nature. Lucas returned home that night, eyes wide with unease. Sarah was waiting, her brow furrowed. He had to tell her. I heard things at the station tonight, voices in the wind, but the moment the words left his lips, thick silence fell between them. The lights flickered, and for a heartbeat, he thought he saw a shadow shift outside the window. Could it be? The elderly woman from next door had warned them, you must leave. The mountains watch you. You're imagining things, Sarah said, forcing a laugh as if dismissing the dark, clenching fear seeping into the corners of their home. But that laughter felt hollow. Days slipped by with more whispers, more disappearances. A paralyzing sense of dread settled over their precious town like a suffocating blanket. They had never even considered leaving. Yet, what choice did they have when the air buzzed with hidden threats? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, but Lucas couldn't shake at the feeling that the mountains were calling, teetering between enchantment and darkness. Every glance at the tree-line filled him with foreboding. The children were at risk, and deep down, he wondered if their blissful ignorance could lead to catastrophe. Then, one stormy night, a loud knock shattered the stillness. It was the wild-eyed woman, panic etched into every crease of her face. You have to listen. They're coming for you. She gasped. Fear knotted in Lucas's stomach, tightening around his heart. What were they coming for? Outside, the wind howled as if offering a sinister warning. Shadows danced at the forest's edge, whispering promises of forgotten truths. Lucas's heart pounded, each beat a reminder of the danger lurking beyond his home. He sensed they had crossed some invisible line, and now there was no turning back. What darkness lay ahead? Would they find the courage to face it? The very air shimmered with suspense, teasing the truth hidden among the trees. Lucas couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, the wild-eyed woman's words echoing in his mind. They're coming for you. Over and over, they played like a broken record, jagged and raw. He stole a glance at Sarah, who lay next to him, the worry lines on her face deepening even in sleep. The wind whistled through the gaps in the windows, forcing a shiver across his skin. An owl hooted somewhere nearby, sounding like a warning. Outside, the forest loomed ominously, dark and restless. What was waiting for them there? Morning brought no relief. Lucas poured a cup of coffee, its bitter aroma barely masking the tension that clung to the air. The town buzzed with anxious energy. Neighbors whispered of a family who had packed their car in the dead of night, leaving everything behind. Why? It was becoming too much to handle. Fear twisted around the community like a tightening snare. Did you hear about the Millers? A customer asked at the gas station. They just disappeared. What do you mean, disappeared? Lucas replied, dread pooling in his stomach. They went into the woods last weekend. Never came back. The sheriff says they probably got lost. The woman shook her head, a shiver coursing through her. But something in my gut tells me this is different. Lucas felt a void growing in his chest. He needed to act. The children were in danger. The unease gnawed at him like hunger. The more he tried to ignore it, the louder it became. By afternoon, he made his decision. As soon as Sarah got home from work, he would tell her. They would leave. But just as he resolved to speak up, another knock shattered the day's fleeting calm. This one was rapid, frantic almost. Lucas turned to see the sheriff standing at the door, his face pale and drawn. I need to talk to you. Now. What is going on? Lucas felt his heart race, every instinct screaming that something was terribly wrong. The sheriff stepped inside, closing the door behind him. We need your help. More kids went missing last night. It's not just disappearances anymore, it's the path they're taking. What do you mean? The words caught in his throat. The last known location for all the vanished kids is the old Smith's clearing. He hesitated, as if the confessions were choking him. It's a spot where a lot of strange things happen. People around here say it's cursed. I think it's time we check it out together. Lucas frowned. The old stories. He had dismissed them as old wives' tales, but now, he felt the weight of their truth pressing down on him. The mice in the walls felt alive that night, no longer just echoes of his imagination. I have a daughter, Lucas finally said, voicing the fear that had haunted him since the first disappearance. What if we're not strong enough to face whatever's out there? The sheriff looked him dead in the eye. Not facing it is the real danger. We need to know what we're dealing with. They grabbed flashlights and gear, crossing the threshold of safety and stepping into the foreboding embrace of the trees. As they moved deeper into the shadows, the whispers returned, swirling around their ears like the breath of a ghost. Lucas felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. What's that? He muttered, feeling suddenly, painfully aware of how isolated they were. A rustle echoed through the trees, accompanied by a low growl. Lucas's heart raced, pounding in his ears. Maybe we should turn back, but before he could finish, something shifted in the darkness, gliding silently among the branches. A figure emerged, tall and shrouded in shadows, and Lucas's breath hitched in terror. This was not just another lost child. It was something else, a darkness too sinister to ignore. In that moment, as the figure raised its head, revealing eyes that glowed like embers, Lucas remembered the elderly woman's warning. You must leave. The mountains watch you. But it was too late. They had crossed into the forbidden and awakened what lay beyond. What would the figure demand from them? Could they escape the clutches of the Catskill darkness? Lucas's heart hammered in his chest as the figure emerged fully from the gloom, the glow of its eyes piercing the thick darkness like twin lanterns of fear. The air thickened with tension. He wanted to scream, to run, but his legs felt glued to the ground. The sheriff stepped forward, flashlight beam trembling in his hand. Stay back. He shouted, but his voice wavered, betraying the terror he too felt. What is it? Lucas whispered, scarcely able to breathe. Sweat trickled down his back despite the chill in the air. He wanted to bolt, yet something primal rooted him, a chilling curiosity mingled with raw fear. Then the figure spoke, its voice like wind rustling through dry leaves. You walk on hollow ground. You disturb the ones who slumber. A cold wave washed over Lucas. The tales of the Catskills echoed in his mind, old stories about spirits of the forest, creatures that demanded respect, or they'd take what they wanted. He had scoffed at those tales. But hearing them now sent icy fingers racing up his spine. Whatever you are, we mean no harm. The sheriff's determination crumbled into a plea, a desperate lunge toward survival. Lucas's pulse quickened. They were in a mess of their own making, venturing into a darkness they couldn't understand. The figure's form flickered, blurring at the edges like mist, as it surveyed them with an unnerving intensity. The children are not lost. They are with me. And they remain. A low rumble shook the branches above, until balance is restored. Balance? The word echoed in Lucas's mind. What did that even mean? He felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could bargain, find a way to bring the kids back. What do we need to do? Lucas demanded, his voice shaky but resolute. Tell us. But the figure merely laughed, a sound that crawled over Lucas's skin like spiders skittering out of sight. You know the stories. You must choose. One must join me for the others to return. A sickening dread filled Lucas. Join you? No. We won't sacrifice anyone. He glanced at the sheriff, fear entwining their fates. We can't do that. Life for life, the figure hissed, its eyes growing brighter, almost glowing like fire. You wish to take without giving. But what you hold dear is already forfeit. The sheriff turned, breathing heavy, clearly shaken. We need to stay calm. We can think this through. But Lucas didn't feel calm. His breaths came quick and shallow, panic clawing at his throat. Sarah, Ellie, what about them? We can't give up anyone. The figure lifted a hand, and the forest seemed to shift, branches creaking ominously. Shadows swirled around Lucas, pressing in, hungry and alive. He sensed the weight of unseen eyes watching, waiting. No. We will not choose. Lucas shouted, but deep down, he knew the truth. The figure had them trapped. They could either risk everything or lose the only thing that mattered. Thus it begins, the figure whispered, its shape growing darker and more forbidding, weaving like mist between the trees. You will soon understand the price of your resolve. Despair washed over Lucas as he felt the ground tremble beneath him, a warning, or perhaps a beckoning. He felt like he was caught in a nightmare with no escape. Run! The sheriff yelled, turning abruptly in the direction they came, but the way back seemed obscured, the path twisting before them, the trees closing in like jagged teeth. Lucas felt the shadows at his back, drawing him in, choking his thoughts with dread. He grabbed the sheriff's arm, the two of them fighting against the weight of darkness clawing at their sanity. The low growl rose again, resonating through their bones, but just as they turned, Lucas caught sight of a familiar shape among the trees, a small figure standing motionless, wide-eyed in the pale light. Ellie. She was closer than he expected, but as he reached out only darkness wrapped around her, pulling her further away. As Lucas stumbled, his heart swirling in confusion and dread, he wondered would they even make it home, let alone save the children? The forest pulsed and shifted, ready to lay its claim. What curse waited to be unlocked, and at what cost would the truth come to light? Lucas's gut twisted as he saw the shadows stretch out like claws, grasping at the space Ellie had just occupied. The forest whispered with a dark hunger, and he swore he could hear the trees creak in warning. He turned to the sheriff, eyes wide and frantic. We have to go back. We have to save her. Not this way. We don't know what's waiting for us, Lucas. The sheriff's voice was strained, filled with the weight of their shared dread, but something deep within Lucas roared to life. Adrenaline surged through him, awakening a primal instinct. We can't leave her. We won. He wrenched free from the sheriff's grip and took a step toward the dark heart of the woods, where Ellie's outline faded, swallowed whole by the darkness. Lucas, no. The sheriff shouted, but Lucas was already moving, zigzagging between gnarled trees that loomed like sentinels. An eerie fog rolled in beneath their twisted branches, curling around him like a living thing. Every shadow seemed to flicker with a consciousness of its own, whispering secrets that scratched against his mind. Ellie. He called, his voice echoing faint and swallowed by the vastness. The forest answered with an unsettling silence, hanging in the air thick and heavy. He hesitated for just a moment, fear pooling in his stomach, and then pushed on, each step a deliberate act of defiance against the lurking dread. The chilling laughter of the figure drifted through the trees, mocking him. It seemed to resonate from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. You cannot save what is already marked. The voice slithered into his mind, tightening around his heart like a vice. Lucas gritted his teeth, forcing himself to focus. He dashed deeper into the thicket, breathing hard, desperate to find some sign of Ellie. The path twisted as if resisting him, roots snaking out underfoot, when suddenly, he felt a tap on his shoulder. He spun around, heart leaping into his throat, but there was nothing. Just the creeping shadows that seemed to snicker at his growing terror. He could feel his sanity teetering on the edge, like a tightrope dancer one misstep away from a devastating fall, and then he saw her again, Ellie, standing amidst the trees, her small frame illuminated by an otherworldly glow. She appeared to be in a trance, her eyes vacant and searching. Ellie! Lucas lumbered toward her, feet pounding against the damp earth, but she only continued to stare vacantly into the woods. Each step felt heavier, as if invisible hands were pulling him back, trying to prevent him from reaching her. A sudden gust of wind rippled through the branches, causing the leaves to hiss like angry serpents, and Lucas froze. He felt the cold breath of something ancient and dark wrapping around him, paralyzing him in place. Join me, little one, the figure whispered, echoing in the distance. Your defiance is useless. No. He wouldn't. Lurching forward, Lucas lunged toward Ellie's side. Just as he grasped her hand, a blinding light engulfed them both, trembling like the beat of a heart. The forest gasped. The shadows pulled back, revealing another layer of the tree's copper bark, etched with unfamiliar symbols. The world shifted again, a trick of the moonlight, and in that moment, Lucas swore he heard Ellie's voice, soft yet desperate. Help me, Lucas, please. Fear tore through him, sharp and jagged. Hold on. He shouted, but as he pulled her closer, the glow morphed into a swirling mass of shadows, enveloping them both. They were drawn into an embrace that felt both cold and fiery, the essence of the forest twisted around them like a storm. Balance must be restored, the figure echoed, and the ground shuddered beneath their feet, branches clawing at their skin, while tendrils of fog snaked around Lucas's legs, dragging him back. The choice loomed ever larger, like an avalanche racing down a mountainside, and Lucas stood at the precipice of the unknown. Would he have the strength to face the horror that awaited, or would he lose everything he held dear? And with the darkness whispering promises of terror, Lucas wondered what price would he pay to unlock the secrets of the Catskills? The blinding light faded, but the darkness did not relent. It clung to Lucas like an old, unwelcome coat. He gasped, blinking against the afterimages, his mind racing to grasp what had just happened. Ellie was still by his side, but she felt different. There was a stillness about her, as if the vibrant life he cherished had been muted, replaced by an unsettling calm that sent chills creeping down his spine. Ellie? He reached out, his fingers trembling. The sound of his heart pounded in his ears, drowning out the whispers of the trees that seemed to beckon him closer, deeper into the shadows. Her face remained blank, eyes fixed ahead as if she were peering through a veil no one else could see. Help me, she repeated, but her voice lacked the urgency it once had. It felt rehearsed, hollow. Ellie, please. Come back to me. Panic flared in Lucas's chest, his grip tightening around her hand. What was happening? Had she been possessed? Was she still Ellie? The chaos of the forest intensified. The air thickened, heavy with foreboding. Figures darted in the corners of his vision, shapes that twisted and morphed in the shadows, laughing, weeping. The forest felt alive, a creature of its own, and Lucas could feel it breathing, pulsing, waiting. Balance must be restored, the voice echoed again, twisting lazily around him. As it faded, shadows danced nearer. He swiveled, scanning the creeping darkness, searching for the source. We need to get out of here. Lucas turned to tug Ellie back, but as he pulled, her feet planted firmly to the ground as if held by the roots of the very trees surrounding them. Join me, the voice whispered again, this time closer, resonant in its invitation. He felt it slither across his skin, a sensation both enticing and terrifying. No. I won T. Lucas roared, fresh determination igniting within him. He couldn't allow the forest to take her, to consume her spirit. They didn't belong to this place. With a fierce yank, he tore Ellie from the grip of the shadows, and they stumbled backward. The forest recoiled, the laughter morphing into a screech, a cacophony of rage that thundered through the trees. Flee! A distant voice cried. Was it the sheriff? A shiver ran through him as uncertainty gripped his mind. He needed clarity now. But those fleeting moments of hope fizzled out as Ellie slumped against him. Lucas, the brief tapering of light flickered in her eyes, and he swore he could see the faint outline of something dark swirling deep within. Ellie, stay with me. We need to move. Terror flooded his voice as he looked ahead. The path they had come from had vanished, obscured by an eerie mist that enveloped the trees like a shroud. He frantically scanned the area. The trees loomed closer now, their branches reaching out, desperate to ensnare them once more. The symbols etched into their bark pulsed with a sinister glow, a rhythmic heartbeat that matched the dread coursing through his veins. Is this it? He thought. Is this the end? He couldn't bring himself to believe it. They had to survive. He had to get them both out of this nightmare. But as he gathered strength, the shadows began to pulse again, surging toward them like a flood. He realized then that the darkness was growing hungry, as if it had been starved for this moment. What do you want? He yelled into the void, desperation clawing at his throat. Balance, the figure murmured, its form shifting just beyond view. And you hold the key. Fear surged, and Lucas took a step back, grasping Ellie tighter against him. The battle lines were drawn, a choice had to be made, and they were caught in a web that threatened to devour them both. But what did it mean? As the shadows swirled closer, pulling him in, the last remnants of light blinked out, and a cold realization set in. Some secrets demanded a sacrifice. Ellie's voice cut through his thoughts, trailing off into a low whisper that sent tremors of dread down his spine. And in that chilling moment, Lucas understood they might not be the last sacrifice to the Catskills' ancient hunger. Could he escape the shadows, or was he just another pawn in a game they didn't understand? The darkness throbbed and pulsed, a living entity clawing at Lucas's sanity. He clutched Ellie tighter, her lifeless form swaying as the shadows crept closer, hungry for their despair. He could feel an icy grip closing around his heart, squeezing tight. Ellie! Fight it! He shouted, trying to reach the flickering remnants of her spirit. Her eyes flickered again, a brief flash of clarity, but the darkness smothered it like a flame snuffed out by the wind. Help me! The word barely escaped her lips, like a dying whisper. What do you want? How can I help you? His voice broke, the panic clawing at his throat, the shadows around them twisted into sickening forms, eyes glowing like embers. Tendrils of dark mist curled toward them, enveloping Lucas entirely. He felt the cold seep into his bones, dragging him down into an abyss of despair. Balance. They hissed, the sound echoing from all directions. Offer her, and you may yet survive. He staggered back, rage igniting something primal inside him. No. I refuse. The ferocity of his voice surprised even himself. The forest roared, branches rattling like angry fists. The laughter morphed into a cacophony of anguish, a chorus of lost souls echoing through the chilled air. Lucas felt their sadness wrap around him, squeezing, crushing. Ellie! We have to run. He steeled himself, yanking her to her feet. But she stood, unyielding, as if her very essence had fused with the forest. The words of the shadows pulsed through him, tempting him to accept the grim bargain. Join me. Ellie's voice turned sinister, a cruel mimicry of her own. She pointed ahead, deep into the writhing darkness. It's so peaceful there. We can be together forever. No. Lucas stepped back, shaking his head. Panic seized him, each frantic heartbeat resounding in his ears like a warning bell. You're not Ellie. You're something else. With a fervor born from love and desperation, he lifted her chin, forcing her to meet his eyes. Fight it. Please, come back. Her lips trembled, the shadows flickering in and out of focus. A spark of defiance shone through, and for a fleeting moment, Lucas saw the Ellie he knew, the girl who danced in the sunlight, laughed until her cheeks hurt. I'm here, she whispered, but the shadows surged once more, attempting to drown her light. Help me. Ellie's voice battled against the dark, layers twisting, dragging her deeper into the void. Lucas, save us. Fury and fear collided in his chest. The threat of losing her was too great, but what were the stakes? What did the shadows want? Her soul, his sanity, or both? With a primal scream, Lucas ripped Ellie away. They fled, running blindly into the thickening fog, doubt gnawing at his insides. But the mist closed in around them, obscuring even the faintest glimmers of hope. The laughter twisted into manic cries, a symphony of despair resonating through the trees. Who are you? Lucas shouted into the dark, defiantly. What do you feed on? Souls, a voice hissed, dark and sinister. Balance, must feed. As the trees loomed ever closer, their twisted branches reached out with hungry intent. Lucas's heart raced. He was cornered, betrayed by the very ground beneath his feet. The shadows pulsed around them. Each heartbeat felt like it might be their last. Ellie. He gasped, desperation surging within him as he spotted an outline in the mist, a pathway that might lead them out. Lucas. A long, low whisper wrapped around his heart. Will you pay the price, to save her? What price? As he sprinted toward the incomplete path, realization slashed through him. He was in too deep, caught in the reckoning of an unseen risk. Lucas felt it, his very essence slipping away, the darkness cradling him with promises of calm. Famished, the shadows taunted. The threat hung heavy in the air. They waited, hungry, for the moment he faltered. Was there a choice left to be made? The echoes of Ellie's spirit seemed to drag him backward, and as the mist thickened, he feared he would never escape. In the end, would he sacrifice everything, for salvation, or for a damnation cloaked in existence? The shadows swelled, and he staggered, teetering on the edge of despair. But one dreadful word thrummed beneath the mist, a promise veiled in darkness. Join, and in that final moment, the abyss opened wide, hungry and ready. Could love truly conquer the malevolence looming in the Catskills, or would it merely add another soul to the ancient hunger? The air grew thicker, choking Lucas as he dashed down the half-formed path, gripping Ellie's hand like a lifeline. The shadows cringed back, lashing out in wild desperation to snatch their prey, but the mist was alive, swirling with a fierce appetite for fear. Don't let go, he shouted, urgency splintering his voice. Ellie's fingers felt cold and limp in his, each low groan escaping her lips, sending shards of dread racing through him. Lucas, her eyes were heavy, battling between dark pools and the flicker of light that seemed so far away. I don't feel right. The words were like a death knell, resonating painfully in the surreal stillness that enveloped them. Just a little longer. He pleaded, holding on to hope while dragging her toward the vague outlines of trees that stood on the edge of the forest. Every step felt like wading through mud, every sliver of thicket whispered ancient secrets, yet none were comforting. They stumbled, nearly losing their footing on the uneven, gnarled roots that squirmed like serpents underfoot. Lucas could feel the shadows slither down his spine, gnawing on his resolve, invading his thoughts. Would they truly escape? Or were they just prolonging the inevitable? A high-pitched laugh echoed through the trees, cutting through the tension like a knife. Lucas's heart raced, the sound itchy and taunting. Hold her tightly. The voice hissed. The price is near. Will you pay it, Lucas? He growled, trying to push the noise away, trying to focus. What do you want from me? The shadows wrapped around him, pulling at his clothes, tugging him back toward them, beckoning him to join that sickening peace. Feed us and all will bloom, they chanted, voices overlapping in a ghastly harmony. They were relentless, crawling into the crevices of his mind, planting seeds of doubt. What was he truly willing to lose? The answer hung tauntingly at the edge of his consciousness. The further they ran, the more Ellie's form began to flicker. Shadows wrapped around her like velvet smoke. Lucas, please, her voice was lost in the tangled dark, warping into a ghastly echo. Is there another way? I can't hold on much longer, no. Fight it. He yelled, desperation rising like bile. She was still in there somewhere. He could feel it beneath the grip of the darkness squeezing her spirit. As they plunged deeper into the forest, the ground shifted underfoot. Roots twisted and curled, creating a nightmarish landscape of despair. The trees leaned close, their jagged branches like claws threatening to ensnare them. He began to tire, each step pulling at his body like a weight he couldn't bear. Will you sacrifice what you hold dear? The shadows crooned, echoing through the forest. For light there is always a price. The shadows clutched at his throat, wrapping around his heart. He stumbled, but before he could fall, Ellie, with a burst of strength that surprised them both, pulled him back. We can't let it win, Lucas. As they stumbled onto a clearing, the moonlight broke through, illuminating a shivering circle of grass. But the light felt harsh, biting into his skin, and the forest shrieked, angry and restless. Keep going. Lucas urged, urgency bubbling in his chest. There has to be safe ground. The shadows writhed restlessly at the edge of this ephemeral sanctuary, their eyes still ablaze with hunger. You think you escape? Balance must be maintained, they hissed, and the dark mist surged, brandishing a new threat. Suddenly, Ellie fell to her knees. Lucas. She clawed at her own chest, and a sickening realization coursed through him. Was this the last glimpse of her spirit? He watched the last flickers of light in her eyes fade, replaced by a glazed stare as the shadows began to coil deeper around her. Ellie. Panic took hold as he lunged to her side. The forest was alive with whispers, chants that chilled him to the bone. Help me, Lucas, don't let it take me. A surge of icy terror rocketed up his spine. The dark shapes were no longer waiting, they descended upon them with a thrumming, deafening force. The fight had begun, with no time left. Lucas's heart screamed a desperate confession. He would do anything, anything at all to save her. The shadows might accept his soul as weight against her. And as that thought locked into place, the darkness breathed, let the offering begin. What sacrifice lurked behind that promise? Would it consume him whole? He felt the weight of the forest's malevolence pressing down, ecstatic in its anticipation. Would he stand back, watching as everything slipped away? Or would he plunge into the darkness for a chance to reclaim the light? The moment Lucas contemplated the shadows' offer, a shiver ran through him, colder than the night around them. Their voices crescendoed, a maddening symphony that wrapped around his mind, squeezing tighter with every fleeting second. He sunk to his knees beside Ellie's crumpled form, the haunting reality of the moment crashing down on him like a tidal wave. Ellie, please. He implored, shaking her gently, fighting against the swirling shadows that threatened to engulf her spirit. I can't lose you. Not like this. With a gasp, Ellie stirred, her eyes flickering as if caught between realms. It feels dark, Lucas. I can't see, she whispered. The tremor in her voice broke him, each word like a dagger twisting further into his heart. An agonizing silence enveloped them as he glanced around the clearing, shadows writhing at the edges like predatory beasts ready to pounce. What do I need to give? He murmured to the darkness, feeling more terrified than hopeful. What's the price? Only what binds you, the shadows sang, their voices slithering through the darkness, knitting dread into the air, weaving countless threads of despair. Only what holds sway over your heart. Lucas felt his pulse quicken, thoughts spiraling. Family. Hopes. Dreams. Ellie. Those words echoed, drawing forth his deepest fears. No. He cried out, but the mist twisted and gripped harder, and he was drowning in choices with his own desperation dragging him down. Do it, Lucas, Ellie urged, a flicker of clarity breaking through the haze. It's your choice. You have to trust yourself. The shadows pulsed, vibrating with twisted glee. Yes, trust him. Trust him to liberate you or claim her. They taunted. As the movement of the forest quickened, Lucas could feel the weight of the moment crushing him. He felt like he was stuck in a nightmare, each breath a struggle against a tide that wanted nothing but to pull him under. Panic clawed at his throat. What was truly worth saving? What if I offer a part of myself? He blurted, realizing the terrible truth hidden within those words. The shadows seized upon his uncertainty, their thrill palpable. Willingly give yourself, and she lives. But be warned, the cost will carve a piece from your soul, the forest hissed, echoing the darkness's intent, both sinister and inviting. Don't, Ellie gasped, pain etched across her face. I can't let you do this. You don't know what it'll do to you. Her urgent plea glimmered through the encroaching blackness like a dying star, but the siren call of the shadows beckoned him closer, whispering insidiously of liberation from the torment. What is life without sacrifice? What is a soul without endurance? Lucas's heart thundered in his chest. He gazed down at Ellie, her face pale, the darkness crawling toward her. This might be their only chance. Could he turn his back on her? Would he dare? You would never be the same, Ellie breathed, the flicker in her eyes dimming again as the shadows squeezed her tight. You don't understand the power they wield, the darkness they'll leave within you. His throat felt tight as he stared into her pleading gaze. A part of him already understood. Even if they won, everything could change. Could he really sacrifice himself for her? The air shifted. The whispers rose again, darker and more insistent. Make your choice, Lucas. The offering must be made a part of you for her freedom. Are you ready? With every heartbeat pulsing through him, the world narrowed, and for an agonizing moment, he stood at the precipice of darkness, the shadows suffocatingly close, pressing against him with crushing pressure. Just say yes. They hissed. It seemed like the forest was holding its breath, waiting for the moment when he would either shatter or stand strong. He reached deep within, the silence vibrating with terror and hope intertwined. And the shadows surged, the ground heaving beneath him, hunger reaching into the heart of his very being. The last flicker of light in Ellie's eyes dimmed completely, as if the shadows had snuffed out her spirit with a mere blink. He gasped as he was pulled into darkness, the forest's malevolence wrapping around him with a sense of ultimate sacrifice. What would that price be, and would it still be worth it when the price was himself? What have I done? He whispered as the darkness swallowed him whole, sealing a path that only held more questions. What ultimate fate awaited them both in the heart of the darkness? Would they ever find light again? The darkness enveloped Lucas completely, swallowing every sound, every breath. His heart thudded against his ribs, loud and frantic, like a drum echoing in an empty cavern. A cacophony of whispers spun around him, each one promising salvation or downfall, blurring into a single rapturous note that gnawed away at his sanity. Welcome, Lucas, they cooed, their voices a mix of honeyed flattery and venomous temptation. You've chosen. Your sacrifice will nourish the void, yet, a price remains unpaid. He stumbled in the complete blackness, grasping at the non-existent walls of this ethereal prison. Ellie! He shouted, fists pounding the air. I'm here. I'll save you. But there was no sign of her. Only the laughter of shadows, a sound like rustling leaves mixed with dark mirth. They danced around him, edging closer, as if testing the marrow of his resolve. Every soul is intertwined in this realm of shadows, they crooned, wrapping around him like tendrils of smoke. You will feel her pain, share in her fleeting life through you. Lucas felt a coldness seep into his being, freezing his thoughts, crystallizing his fears. What were they doing to him? Pushing the remnants of his courage toward chaos. He tried to search for a flicker of light, but instead, memories of Ellie invaded his consciousness, her laughter, the way her eyes sparkled in the sun, their plans, their dreams. Everything threatened to unravel under the powerful grip of despair. No. I want to let you take her. He shouted defiantly. Take her? A voice hissed, slinking closer. She is already ours. She will fade, lost in the dark, unless you embrace it. Become the sacrifice, become her shadow. Images began to break through the darkness, memories layered over his mind like photographs slipping from a stack. He saw Ellie again, but she was not the girl he knew. Her skin was pallid, eyes dulled, trapped in some cyclical nightmare. She reached for him, murmuring through a veil of shadows. "Don't let go, Lucas, please." It was the same plea, echoing, haunting. The shadows thickened, their laughter swirling into a crescendo, feeding off his anguish. "Release your heart. Give us what we desire, and she shall live." His vision blurred, sorrow morphing into desperation. He, too, was suffocating inside their grasp. A stirring horror finally crept into his core. Was Ellie's life worth his own? Could he live with himself if he lost her? Only a shadow remains if you choose. Are you ready? They prodded, their delight palpable. No. He cried out, but a nagging whisper taunted him in the recesses of his mind. Do you wish to fight the dark? Or will you dive into its embrace? Each second stretched endlessly, as the gravity of his thoughts bore down on him. Rage fought against despair. He thought of love, of laughter, of what the two of them might become beyond this torment. If he let go, if he truly surrendered, would life ever have meaning again? Suddenly, a pulse surged through him, awakening a protective instinct. You can't have her. He roared into the abyss. The shadows recoiled, and for a brief moment, they faltered. The specters shrieked as if distanced by a sudden light, but it was too quick, a momentary flicker in the shroud of night. Resist and the sacrifice shall grow stronger, they spat. Ripples surged through the ether as a tremor shook the ground beneath him. The shadows writhed, less sure now, though their craving remained. Lucas found himself steeling his mind, reaching for something deep within, something to counteract their glee. But just as he began to summon the strength, the darkness coiled tighter, ready to consume, ready to draw him down. He could feel the very fabric of his soul straining against the weight of their demands. What's the cost? He whispered, a question that hung heavy in the air, like an oppressive fog. Would it shatter him? In that pivotal moment, the interplay of light and dark locked in a deadly dance. What would give? Everything hinged on this precipice. What sacrifice remained to be made? A heartbeat later, he felt an unseen pressure shift, as if whatever decision awaited him was slinking toward an unforgiving resolution. In the chilling silence, the question loomed, heavy and sinister. What sacrifice is too great to save the one you love? His heart raced as the darkness hungered. Lucas stood at the brink of his ultimate choice. Would he slip back into the void, or claw back to the light? The forest's breath grew heavy around them, thick with tension as Lucas felt Ellie slipping further from his grasp. Panic ignited his heart, a fire ignited by desperation. They could still escape, he could save her, but the shadows tightened their grip, dragging her deeper into a dark embrace. No! Lucas roared, choking on the icy grip of impending doom. Not like this. The shadows recoiled momentarily, a flicker of power emerging from his defiance. Lucas could feel it, hope surging within him like a lifeline. I want to let you take her. He shouted, seizing the moment as strength spiraled through his veins. He dropped to his knees beside her, locking eyes with the darkness entwining Ellie. We can fight this together, Ellie. I refuse to lose you. Her vacant gaze began to shimmer, memories flickering beneath the surface, a spark of color against the black. He reached out, anchoring her spirit with love and determination. Ellie, remember us. The hikes, the laughter, the sunsets by the lake. You're still in there. Ellie's fingers twitched against the suffocating fog, a glimmer of recognition breaking through. Lucas, I don't know how. The tone of her voice broke him, steadied by his fierce resolve. That was enough, it had to be. He gripped her hand with a fierce pressure, igniting the last remnants of her spirit. In that moment, everything shifted. A pure light surged between them, a primordial force of love and defiance that pierced the darkness like a star cutting through a stormy sky. The shadows hissed, pulling back in pure trepidation, their wicked laughter faltering in the face of this unexpected bravery. No. You cannot escape. They chanted, shrill cries of anger echoing in the trees, but their power waned. Unite with me. Lucas urged, the strength of his heart coursing through him, wrapping around Ellie like an unbreakable cord. Focus on who you are. Who we are. The shadows wavered, flickering at the edges of their dark tendrils, as Ellie brought her own willpower to bear, summoning memories of joy and warmth to break the chokehold they had over her. "Lucas," she whispered, the last remnants of her old self sparking back to life. "I remember. I'm here." The shadows surged once more, desperate for their lost grip, unleashing howling winds that whipped around them. But Lucas held fast, his breath steady, each heartbeat resonating with a fiery brilliance that ignited the clearing. "You are not alone. Together, we can defeat them." Ellie's eyes flashed with an internal fire, determination blossoming bright against the murky abyss. "I can feel it, Lucas. The light, we can push them back." With a united surge, they pulled strength from the depths of their bond. Lucas felt a radiant energy sparking between them, luminous tendrils of light flashing against the darkness. The shadows writhed and twisted, howling in fury, but their cries became muted, fading under the warmth of their combined power. "We choose life. We choose each other." They shouted into the night, voices echoing through the forest like battle cries, dismantling the shadowy grasp around them. The mist recoiled, and as it did, Lucas and Ellie felt themselves unshackled, fleeing back toward the light, toward hope. The darkness shivered, fracture lines cracking through its form like glass breaking apart. "The balance. You dare defy it." The shadows screamed, but their grip weakened, falling away with each breath of resolve. Laughter and then fear pulsed in the woods as they broke through, crashing free of the trees into an unknown clearing, dappled with moonlight. Lucas glanced back, heart hammering in his chest as he felt the presence of the darkness unravel. The stories, the curses, the warnings, everything that had haunted them was left behind, confined to the fog that dissipated as dawn broke over the horizon, and there, in the sleepy glow of the rising sun, Lucas wrapped his arms around Ellie, feeling her warmth flood through him, banishing the chill of terror that had cloaked them for so long. "We did it. We're safe," he marveled, his heart swelling with relief. Ellie smiled, tears pooling in her shining eyes. "We fought together, Lucas. We never doubted each other." As the townsfolk began to stir, a sense of peace fell over the Catskills. The whispers vanished, leaving only the gentle rustle of leaves in the warm breeze. Lucas gazed into Ellie's eyes, a mixture of love and triumph flooding through him, their lives preserved, their fates intertwined forever. "I'll always protect you," he vowed, feeling the essence of their victory pulse vibrantly round him. "Together," she affirmed, squeezing his hand tightly. They shared a soft kiss, a moment sealed with resilience, the darkness banished, the Catskills finally at rest. But he knew their love would endure long into tomorrow, and whatever shadows they faced ahead would meet their might with light. As the sun shone brighter, Lucas felt a pulse of warmth rising within him, a promise of renewal, freedom, and the profound result of fighting for what is most sacred. The Catskills Mountains would remember the day when two souls stood against the dark and emerged stronger together, forever bound against the night. And just like that, with hope restored, the whispers of the past faded into echoing memories, forever silenced. Don't wait. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that could chill you to the bone. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm's hunger. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this unforgettable ending. Share this wild tale with at least 5 friends who need a little thrill and suspense in their lives. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word. Your support means the world to us.